Welcome back, everybody, to Volatility Trading Strategies and this final part 3 of the Portfolio Rebalancing series. So just to get everybody up to speed here, in case you missed it, in the first video I talked about all the reasons why we have to rebalance our portfolios, and it essentially comes down to risk management. If investors allow the allocations in their portfolio to go unchecked, then over time they do get out of balance. Some holdings become much larger allocations than originally intended, and others become much smaller. This leaves the investor open to taking excessive losses if one of those larger allocations suddenly gets hit with an unexpected move. So you just rebalance regularly to make sure everything is aligned with your original intended allocations. And then in part 2, I talked about a couple of the more common ways that people can achieve that. For a more detailed breakdown, I will leave a link for that video here, but the first one that I mentioned is called the threshold method. You just decide on a threshold level. In this case, you can see it's set at 10%, but it could easily be 5% or some other number. But in this case, if any of the allocations breaches that 10% up or down level, it triggers a rebalance. And then the second one I went over is the calendar method. For this one, you just set a specific time schedule for when you'll rebalance. So you could do once every 6 months, or to make it easier, just once at the end of every year. When that time you've chosen hits, you rebalance the portfolio back to the original allocations. Now, both of those methods work really well, and they're very easy to execute on your own in a buy and hold portfolio. So if you're relatively inactive and you just let your portfolio do its thing, then naturally those values will fluctuate over time, and you just choose one of those methods, either the threshold or the calendar, and you periodically rebalance it back to the original allocation. But what if you're an active trader? I get this question all the time. How do we make sure the allocations are correct when we're moving in and out of positions 2 or 3 times per month? Well, the good news is it's actually even easier than those other 2 methods I went over. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, smash the like button for me, and let me get into what I call constant portfolio rebalancing. So to show you how constant portfolio rebalancing works, I'm going to use my own portfolio as the backdrop here. This will be very familiar for VTS community members. Now, if you don't know what that means, you can always check out my website when you have some time. It's not important for this video. You'll get my point. So this is what I call my Total Portfolio Solution. This is all 4 of the individual strategies combined into a diversified portfolio. So you can see there's different allocations there, and they do change over time depending on market conditions. But long-term, I do prioritize risk management and drawdown reduction above all else. Now, in order to produce returns like that above buy and hold, it does require some active management. Now, I'm not what you would call a day trader. None of those strategies are churning positions regularly. You can see the long-term trade frequency here. The tactical balance strategy, on average, only changes position 2.98 times per month. The VB threshold is a little more active at 5.72 changes of position per month. Tactical volatility averages 2.48 trades per month. And that last one for VTS options, 1.81 was the trade frequency going back to inception. But a little side note, not important at all for this rebalancing topic, but VTS options is now a dedicated service and will be far more active. So that 1.81 will likely go up to around 8 or 9 trades per month, give or take. So you can see that while it's not day trading, those other methods of threshold and calendar rebalancing aren't going to work here. So that's when constant portfolio rebalancing comes in. Like I said, it's really easy to execute, and it simply means every time you open a fresh new position, you allocate the intended percentage of your portfolio to that trade. So conveniently, yesterday my VB threshold strategy changed positions. These are the dials I use to communicate the daily signals to subscribers. And because the market has been doing so well lately, I was holding the ZIV for a little over a month straight since October 22nd. But yesterday we had a big volatility spike, and it did push the strategy into the middle SPY position. So yesterday's trade signal was to sell the ZIV and buy the SPY. Using constant portfolio rebalancing, all I need to know is the desired percentage allocation for that strategy. So right now the VB threshold is a 20% overall allocation. So the first thing I do is just sell the ZIV. No implications there, I just sell the position when the signal comes in. Then I turn around and I buy the SPY in the correct allocation that matches my desired portfolio allocation. In this case, it's 20%. I just take the total value of my portfolio, the net liquidation value, and I use that amount to buy the SPY shares. It's really that simple. With every new trade I take, I just allocate the correct amount based on the current design of the portfolio. So if tomorrow the tactical balance strategy has me moving out of MDY stocks and maybe into IEF bonds, that balance strategy has a 40% allocation. That's the only information I need. So I just sell MDY, which I already hold, and I just use 40% of my net liquidation value to buy the new IEF shares. So even if my portfolio moved around a little bit over the last few weeks, with every new trade I take, it just resets to the correct size. Constant portfolio rebalancing. The only little hiccup here is if your portfolio happens to be spread out among multiple trading accounts. So maybe you have 2 accounts or 3 or 4 for some reason. All you'd do in that case is you'd have to actually add up your net liquidation value, and then you'd use that to allocate to the new position. But it's really that easy. Even though my portfolio is more active than buy and hold, because every fresh new trade I take resets the allocations, my strategies remain in line with my original intention. And that allows me to control my risk. People can get into a little trouble if they take smaller amounts of their portfolio and trade something independently. As time goes on and those values change, things can become over-allocated, under-allocated, and that does make it more difficult to control your risk. For me, I always want to make sure that my portfolio is exactly the way I want it to be. If I do change those allocations, say if one of them goes from 20% to 30%, I want that to be because I've chosen to specifically target that change. I don't want it to go to 30% because the market moved around and essentially force those allocations to be there. It's all about me controlling my portfolio, not allowing it to deviate, and the best way to do that, and fortunately one of the simplest ways, is using constant portfolio rebalancing. Every new trade triggers one of those rebalances. It couldn't be simpler. So go check out my website. There's a free trial on there for you. You can join the VTS community, see a few live trades in action, and see how I actually navigate these markets. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much for watching the video. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel and go check out my website right here. There's tons of articles and videos on there, as well as a free trial to join the VTS investing community. What have you got to lose? Come see how I personally navigate these unruly markets. See you next time.